Hey y'all, welcome to New Slang. I'm your host, music journalist Thomas Mooney. This is episode 133, where I'm joined by songwriter Sam Morrow. Sam is releasing Gettin By on Gettin Down, his newest set of songs, this Friday, October 30th. Though he's from the Houston area, Sam has been out in Los Angeles for a while, and that certainly has rubbed off on him and influenced the storytelling and the style of a lot of these songs. I think we're all guilty of it, believing that LA is just kind of like this place for movie stars and reality stars and like fashion icons and so on, you know, kind of like the lifestyles of the rich and famous. But really, LA is way more of a working class city than any of us give it credit for. Yeah, like the lower bowl of like Laker games at Staples Center, that may be filled with movie stars and hip hop and rock stars, wealthy film executives and so on. But the reason that place is so loud is because of all those hardworking folks who are in the middle class who make up the rest of the arena. I know that probably all sounds a little left field, but I've really been thinking about it since having this conversation with Sam. He's been mentioning how he's really been inspired and influenced more and more by Los Angeles bands and local culture, which again, we kind of dismiss since there is such an influx of people always heading towards LA from other places. But as we discussed during this podcast, there is such a rich, storied history of local bands and local culture. And I think Sam really taps into a lot of that with this new album. No one really likes a name dropper, but I remember Ray Wiley Hubbard one time saying to me about how one of the things he always looks for in a song is grit and groove and tone and taste. Now, I'm not sure if that's 4 things or just 2, but at any rate, I think a lot of these songs have that grit and groove, have that tone and taste. Can I say that there's a little bit of this greasy edge to them as well? I'm going to say that there's like this slick, greasy sharpness to them as well. That mix of like ZZ Top and Little Feat, maybe some of that Tony Joe White country swagger. Some of that country funk that comes in. Today's presenting sponsor is Desert Door Texas Sotol. If you know anything about me, it's probably that I'm from the heart of West Texas and absolutely love everything about West Texas. And that's really why I love Desert Door so much. You may be asking yourself what exactly Sotol is. Well, it's a premium spirit that's similar to a tequila or a mezcal. But for my money, it's a little bit more refined and smooth. There's a sweetness and faint hints of vanilla and citrus. And it's also as versatile as your garden variety vodka. At its core, Desert Door is authentically West Texas. They go out and harvest Sotol plants from the wild and bring them back to their distillery over in Driftwood, Texas. So next time you're at your local liquor store, get a bottle of Desert Door. For more info, check this episode's show notes. If this is your first time listening to New Slang, I strongly suggest hitting that subscribe link. If you just did, I'm giving you a virtual high five right now. New Slang is over on iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and basically any and everywhere you listen to podcasts. Go check out the New Slang merch store, grab a koozie, some stickers, buttons, and magnets. Any bit helps. I'll throw a link into the show notes. And if you're into playlists, go check out Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee and the Neon Eon playlists over on Spotify. The Neon Eon is for all your nostalgic 90s country needs, which there's going to be more Neon Eon related stuff coming your way pretty soon. And then Tom Mooney's Cup of Coffee is a regularly updated mix of new Americana and country music. It's also a really great hint at who I have coming up on the podcast. So yeah, go follow those. All right, I think that's about it for this part. Let's get on to the interview. Here is Sam Morrow. There's been this little bit of a learning curve switching over to the phone and everything, but...
Oh, yeah, sure. A lot of learning curves lately, too.
Yeah, it's been... That's one of those weird things, I guess, that I don't think a lot of people have... they just kind of take it for granted, but talking with a lot of people these last few months... just all this kind of stuff, like, you know, any kind of like live streams and all that stuff, you just think, oh yeah, that's easy to set up. And then you start setting it up and then you're like, actually, you know what, to make it any good. Maybe watch a couple of YouTube videos.
It takes. It's. I mean, I even like invested in just getting like a little, I just kept watching people doing them, and like I was like, man, that sounds like shit, And so I was like, before I do it, I guess I'll like buy like a little interface or something, and then I did a couple, and I was like, I hate doing this, so I just kind of stopped.
Yeah. It's weird because like the stuff that's like probably like three or four songs, 30 minutes long, like that's a little bit more my style. Like I'll just I'll watch that, but it's hard to, I don't know, like there's just a disconnect for me on watching a live stream.
I mean, it's like you're just like playing and like looking at yourself,
Yeah,
it just sucks. I've been doing like these little things on like Instagram Live, and just like having like another artist come on and just like kind of talking to them for like 30 minutes, maybe playing a couple songs or something. I like doing that much more than, like playing to myself basically. I mean, there's people typing and shit, but it's, I hated doing it, man. I figured that out pretty early on in the whole COVID thing.
Yeah, it's after every song, like the artist is leaning in, trying to read, squinting. The screen's never like real close or anything, so then it's like, oh, okay. Thanks, guys, for whatever you said there. So
exactly. I did this. I did like it's like a pre-recorded live stream thing. I guess not live, but they're going to stream it with like the Echoplex, like a Live Nation venue out here, and they were like, just act like it's a show. And so like after I played the first song, I just sort of like froze. I was like, what the fuck do I say? Like, thanks guys, like no one's clapping. I don't know, man. It's just not having a crowd I'd rather have one person, which I played to one person plenty of times, but I'd definitely rather have at least one person, at least the sound guy,
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like an energy, no matter if it is that one person or if there is, a substantial crowd. It's, I mean, like that's obviously what you've been doing this entire time. And then like everything's just flipped over. It would be equally as weird if all we had done up until this point in history was play live feeds, and then all of a sudden one day we were like, we can't do that anymore. We have to play live.
It's pretty funny actually. Hey, no, you're right, man. I mean, for me though, I just feed off the crowd. Like if the crowd is like lazy and dreary, I have trouble getting up and enthusiastic, and then vice versa. Like if the crowd's excited, it's really easy for me to get excited. I should probably improve on that because I just kind of meet the crowd where they are. But I think I've heard that real entertainers just put on the same good show every night, but I don't know. I have trouble doing that. So when there's no crowd, it's tough, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I see what you're saying, especially because what I relate it to is like if I'm doing an interview with someone who's like just not answering questions that well, or like, and I mean that in like the short way, you start looking at the clock and you're like, is it going backwards now? Like,
Right. Yeah. So just like, phoning it in, man. Yeah. No, I mean, I've been on the other side of that too, where like, I'm just getting asked shitty questions,
Yeah. How'd you get your band name?
Like, like, I don't know. I don't want to say any just in case you're going to ask me later. I'm joking with you, man. I don't know. It's just all about connection. And I think that's what this COVID thing is like. I think we've realized how much we maybe take that for granted. Hopefully we come out of it better for that, you know?
Right.
But yeah, man, I mean, I'm glad that I at least, you know, I live with my girlfriend and a couple dogs, and, you know, I'm super fucking glad I've had them, you know. I would have gone, I don't know how I would have fared solo throughout all this, you know?
Yeah. Well, that's I guess talking with a lot of songwriters and stuff during this time, you know, it is I guess like the big conversation piece, I guess, that I've connected with and that have just been brought up is it's so easy to just waste time, especially because we've lost our sense of weekdays and what time it is,
Right.
and like any kind of normalcy that we've kind of had established for, you know, hundreds of years. And it's just easy to just kind of drift out of that and lose your sense of focus.
Right.
Obviously a lot of the people I've talked with, it's interesting because it's not like all these people are going, oh yeah, I've got a new record written, or I've got, you know, a bunch of songs written during this time.
Yeah.
Because there's a weirdness to it, like, and I don't think it necessarily works like that for everyone, where you can just wake up at 8 and start writing a song at 9 and be done at lunch, and then do it the same thing the next day. They've been like finding other stuff. So in relation to you, like, what have you been doing during this time that, you know, is just kind of giving you some balance, I guess, and felt like you've been productive?
Yeah, I mean, towards the beginning of quarantine, it you know, people kept asking me, you know, are you writing a bunch of songs right now? Like, you must have like 2 records worth. And I'm like, no, you know, like I'm just like coping right now. You know, I'm not even thinking about writing, you know, and I think that's okay. Like, I think it's important for artists to know that. For them, it would have been important. I mean, it's gotten a little bit more lax now. It's not as intense as it was there at the beginning, but, you know, I just slowly, like, I was just kind of like taking care of my mental health, and, you know, I had like a lot of anxiety at the beginning of all this, which then leads to depression. And, so for me, it was like, I had to take care of myself first. And then, you know, slowly I got a little more productive. I'm kind of task based, you know, so if I'm like, you know, okay, I'm going to write a bunch of shit down. I'm going to write a to-do list, and I'll just kind of check it off, you know? So for me, it was just like, you know, spending at least, you know, an hour playing guitar, or, you know, spending like at least an hour just sort of like, or not an hour, but, you know, 20, 30 minutes doing, just sort of like freehand writing, you know? And then, you know, I started meditating a lot more, which I hadn't really done, in like years, really, maybe like 4 or 5 years. That helped me out a lot. And then just, I play a lot of video games, man. I'll be totally honest with you. It's just like, for me, it was like just a way to escape, you know, because the world sucked for a while, you know. At least I felt like it did, you know. So I needed an escape, and sometimes guitar just like wasn't really enough, because what I missed was playing music with people. That's what I love about music the most, is playing music with people. So when I'm just in my apartment playing by myself with my girlfriend who can't sing a tune, it's just not the same.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's gotten better. You know, I've been writing a little bit, but try not to put too much pressure on myself.
Yeah. Well, you know, like, at the very beginning, you're right. Like, it was such a because I think since it was so new, it was such, people were just watching Netflix or like, playing video games, like you said, just doing stuff like that, that you would kind of do like on a lazy Sunday, because like I think it's a combination of like that. A lot of that stuff is just like so easy. It helps you cope with like takes your mind off of what's going on outside. But then also like, I think like we didn't know how long how it was going to last. You know what I mean? If like, so exactly. Like if it's like, oh, I'm not going to start a new, I don't know. I'm not going to start learning how to, I don't know.
A new trade or something.
Basically. Yeah. Because like I'm gonna have to give it up in 2 weeks or something like that. So I think like early on, there was very much that just in like no man's land of just kind of not knowing any answers really. And then like at some point then it was like, oh yeah, actually this is going to be a lot longer. And, just for me on my personal end, it was like, okay, well, let's just start podcasting more. And so that's obviously what we started doing. This episode is in part brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. There is a way to help A, support Blue Light, and B, get a sense of that normalcy by visiting bluelightlubbock.com, clicking on the merch tab, and getting some koozies, a vast array of t-shirts and caps, and yes, even a Blue Light flag. While it is such a bummer that live music is still on hold right now, I'm telling you, by getting some Blue Light Live merch, you're going to feel better. It just feels better wearing a t-shirt and ball cap and helping support your favorite bar. Again, that's bluelightlubbock.com. Click on the merch tab, get some merch. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, so like going to the video games. Like what's your... I
got really into, well, first of all, you mentioned Netflix. One of the things that me and my chick did at the beginning of quarantine was, and I'm ashamed to admit this, but we started Jersey Shore from the very beginning and watched the whole damn thing. And we're like all caught up, like reunion. We've seen the reunions and shit. Like I have to say I'm a Mike the Situation fan now, man. It was just like so good for our brains though, just like mindless, like don't have to think too much. You can laugh here and there. That was like medicine for us at the beginning of all this. But yeah, I shifted into video games. I got really into this video game called Overwatch, and it's actually like it's been out for like 4 years, and there's actually like an Overwatch league where teams like there's 2 LA teams, San Francisco, there's a Houston team, a Dallas team, a France, or not France, but Paris, London, bunch of like SEAL and teams in Japan and stuff. So it's like an international sort of like esport thing. Like I was watching, they just had like the playoffs or something. They showed on YouTube, and I logged in for a second, and there was like 120,000 people watching the esports playoffs online. It was pretty wild, but it's like a first person shooter kind of fantasy-ish, super nerdy, man. I'm not even gonna front about that. Like it's full nerd, but yeah, man, it was just like another thing to just sort of distract me. And, I've sort of let up on it a little bit now, but, just, I needed stuff like that to just kind of take my mind off of what was going on. I had to just totally unplug from the news, for a good while. It was just, it was just not healthy for me, man. It was just a lot of like doomsday and, I had to find a line between like being informed and keeping my sanity,
Right.
And it took me a few weeks to do that, but I kind of figured out the concoction that worked for me.
Yeah. That's it. I think we're in such a weird time, where this is something that like our grandparents really didn't have to think about, was because as far as like their news consumption, because like there were so few outlets for them to get from, and now like you can just like watch the news literally every waking moment, and you can be watching the news and then like streaming something else newsworthy, and then be on Twitter, and just
it's like you can't avoid the news, man. You know, it's not even just like, oh, I'm gonna watch the news. It's like, nah, I gotta like turn off the notifications on my phone.
Right.
You know, it's a whole different thing. But yeah, that's a good point. They didn't have to really. Also, like the news that they got for the most part was singular. Mm-hmm. You know, there wasn't like a whole lot of opinions. I mean, there was still maybe like right and left. You know, maybe two opinions, but it was kind of like they turned on Walter Cronkite or whoever, and that's who they got their news from.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And now we have like CNN, Fox, and, you know, CNBC, and there's all the online outlets, and they're all saying different things, you know?
Yeah. No, that's something that I know, like even back, like, you know, when I was in college, we talked about that in classes where, like the singular voice for our parents and our grandparents and, you know, further back was that like what it meant was like the news had to be more fair and balanced. I know I just stole that from Fox, but like legit fair and balanced.
Since they're the most fair and balanced. So.
And and now like it is very much we're in this like culture where now on a lot of things as far as pop culture goes, this is great because you're able to like tap in and find your tribe, you know, like just whatever you're into, you can find those people. But what it also means is like the echo chamber of where you get your news, you're just getting what you want to hear. And if that's like all the good news, that's what you want to hear. And if that's all like the bad news, like these people are horrible, you're able to tap into that too. And it's really interesting how, I guess, like alarming and scary that can be. And like you're saying, like earlier, you gotta like find where your line is, where you're where it's
just a very personal thing now, you know, like, and to be honest, like if you ask me where I got my news, like if there was sort of if you asked me for like one place that I trusted, I couldn't give you one, man. You know? And that's pretty sad, but it just sort of is what it is. And that's part of the reason that I just had to sort of unplug, you know, and just try and, like I said, try and stay informed, like as to what's going on. But, you know, for a while, like they'd be like, oh, they just opened up restaurants like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, I didn't know that, you know? But like, why does it matter? Like I wasn't going to eat, you know? So, and that applies to a lot of things. Like it's like I would get anxious about things that like didn't even affect me that I heard, you know? It was all these hypotheticals. So why like pollute my mind with that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, no. And, I mean, I talked with someone the other day about this, how like sometimes I just like let my mind race on the hypotheticals that are just never actually going to happen. So, or they're not applicable to me. So it's like, okay, take a breath, you know, step back, that kind of thing. Also though, I want to go back onto something you were talking about with Jersey Shore and like, you know, your don't judge me kind of thing. Actually, you know, I think that like a lot of quote unquote trash TV is kind of like a nice, necessary way to just kind of, you know, not think about things and just watch. Because like back in the day, I was kind of like Real World obsessed. I don't know. Did you ever watch that?
A little bit. We like, honestly, after Jersey Shore, because my girlfriend she's seen like all of it. She's been watching that for years, but I just had never really. So she was like, "Oh, we should try the season of the Real World." And yeah, I mean, I didn't like it as much, but it's the same thing. You know, it's the same kind of mindless, just like a way to unwind.
Yeah, it's always I don't know, like it's so funny how just like I guess like watching it now versus like watching it as like a 15-year-old kid is like so like your mind is so different where you're like I guess like now you can see like, man, they just manipulate these people so hardcore. like the producers are just like,
I mean, and especially like the more that you watch of it, you can almost like guess what's going to happen, just like if it's a drama or something, you can kind of guess, cause there's people behind the scenes, like, puppet masters. But for some reason, I just don't care,
Right. Yeah.
I just love it. It's even though I might know what's going to happen, there's still like an element of surprise and like happiness that comes out of it. And, a lot of people dog on it and, that's fine. But I think, as long as you don't fucking worship it, why not watch it if it makes you feel good?
Yeah. Well, that's the show that I watch now, and I haven't kept up with it lately, but the 90 Day Fiance stuff is just like,
oh dude, I checked out a little bit of that. Oh man. Yeah, I kept seeing memes of that guy.
Yeah.
The guy with no neck.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Big Ed.
Yeah, Big Ed. Yeah, Big Ed. I kept seeing like memes of him and I was like, damn, I gotta check that out. So I watched like a few episodes of it and I didn't get like fully immersed in it, but I mean, yeah, I think another thing that kind of made it like especially good during quarantine is like I wasn't interacting with people, and it almost felt like it gave me a sense of, and I know they call it reality television, but it gave me like a bit of a sense of reality while I was stuck in a weird reality in my apartment. It gave me like a sense of normalcy.
Yeah.
Even though like me going to clubs on the Jersey Shore isn't normal, but who knows? Maybe I'll start, maybe I'll be like, I'll start spiking my hair. I'll be a DJ next record or something.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say.
You know?
Trade your guitar in for,
yeah. I'll start fist pumping and, doing the whole deal, man. You know? Yeah, I think for a lot of reasons it was just, it served a purpose for me,
Yeah.
and my girl.
Yeah. The thing that I am just kind of amazed on specifically with the 90 Day Fiance thing is just how much content they have just like gotten out of just the premise of the show, where it's like they have the show, but then they have like other people watching the show. So you're just watching them react, like literally just like reaction videos. And that's kind of like, man, you guys probably put in so little into that budget and yet
less work than you're doing right now, probably,
exactly. It's
just,
but I mean, it's
all those Zoom calls and stuff like that they put on there. And yeah, man, it's, and the thing that blows my mind about that show is just like I'm just so far from understanding those people's thought process,
Mm-hmm.
And it just fascinates me. It's like seeing Alien, I mean, I'm not dogging any of those people. But their thought process is just so different than mine that it's fascinating. You know? The psychology of it is fascinating.
Well, I don't want to like go too far in this direction.
This is a reality TV episode.
But one of the things that I find really interesting, and you said, it gives you it gave you a sense of reality in this moment. What's fascinating too is like how you are watching these guys or these people, and you're like, there's this alien aspect of it. They are detached from reality in a lot of cases,
Right.
where you're like, what is this guy? I'm blanking on a few names here, but like they're definitely like everyone is reading the situation this way, and then he's like, no, it's this way. We are getting married, and like it's like, dude, you've never even met her. Like, what are you talking about? But I digress. We'll move on.
We should start like a reality TV podcast, man. That's what we need to do.
Just like the reality show trash podcast.
I mean, two guys talking about that, I don't think has happened yet. Maybe females talking about it, but I don't think there's two guys talking about it.
Yeah, like
talking about the psychology of it and shit.
The most I've seen has been like, there's probably like 1,000 bachelorette podcasts, and I know the Ringer has one, and that usually has like 2 or 3 people talking. And I know that like Bill Simmons used to be like really into Real World and road and stuff like that.
That's funny.
And so he's had a few people on in the past, probably not in like the last 5 or 6 years, but it's so funny. Like Bill Simmons is like the king of all of the Real World stuff. And so I don't know. It's
I didn't know that.
Like
That's funny,
yeah, like because I'm just laughing because he's had these moments where he's like the challenges, like where they would have like there's like very little athletic, like there's by no means is it LeBron James out there versus Jimmy Butler, but it's like alcoholic 30-year-old dudes who have been like on a 2-week bender basically, fighting in the sand, and then like Bill's kind of going, well, who do you think is like the most athletic? If you had to like put $1 million on the line, like who's the most like who's like the best competitor out of the bunch or whatever. And that's just like, man, that's Bill, you're thinking way too much about this.
Yeah, but that's his reality. Like, and he's like trying to put in context his reality into their reality. And that's what's fascinating about it, man. So the realities are different. You know? I don't know. We can get into the whole time as a flat circle thing, but
oh man,
it's reality TV, man. We'll start the podcast. We'll talk about it on our new podcast.
Yeah, we'll do that. I'm serious if you want to.
Let's do it.
Obviously, though, you have this new record coming out at the end of the month, and I guess for starters, like I'm assuming you had basically all the record ready and prepped before the beginning of quarantine. Is that correct, or was there any stuff you had to go back in and do?
Yeah, I mean, it was like the record itself, like the music was all done last year. So yeah, it had been done, and we had to do like the artwork and stuff like that, pretty much all of it was ready to go. Like we did a lot of the single art, kind of during quarantine, but like the cover art was there, and we just had to figure out if it was a good time to release music, and I think it is. I think it is. I think a lot of people are just like on their computers, or I think there's a hunger and a thirst for new music right now. Also, like selfishly, like I recorded this record last year. Like I just wanted to get it out there,
Right. Yeah,
that's always. I didn't want to sit on it till we started touring again. Like I want to record another record by the time we start touring again.
Yeah, well, that's always the part about, I guess, like the album making process is that, by the time it's out, most of the time you have been around the songs for a long time, about, at least a year or something, 8 months or whatever the case is. Most of the time it's in that that time. And so obviously in this time, tack on a few more months. And, I think, I guess like what I would always be worried about is like, by the time these songs are out, by the time this record's out, am I kind of like not excited about these songs anymore? And,
Right.
and you don't necessarily want that time to pass, like that feeling.
Right.
So,
well, it's even tougher because like, I think it's natural to feel unexcited, like for the songs, like, a year or so after, by the time it's released. But what personally like reinvigorates my excitement for them is playing it live. Mm-hmm. Because in my show, it kind of changes from night to night. We kind of, just free ball it a little bit, and I'm missing that right now. I'm missing like kind of staying excited about it by playing them and having them be fresh. And, I'm definitely missing part of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, also like with a show, like I know for so many people, when it comes to new material, that's such a great, for lack of a better term, like a place to test out songs and test out how the feel of a song should be.
Right.
And I know, like, obviously there's a camp out there that is more on they don't play songs until the record's out kind of thing. But, a lot of bands are playing, every weekend and going on long tours. That's just kind of the thing to do, is like working in new songs that are not necessarily released and seeing how they grow. And so I can see like that kind of being maybe like you kind of getting antsy on any kind of new stuff that you're working on currently as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, I'm not really one that, holds songs back or anything. Like if I have a song that we want to play and it's like maybe not released yet, well, that doesn't really matter to me. We'll still play it, and there were some of these songs that, I've been playing live since like last summer,
Mm-hmm.
So that's like almost a year and a half ago. So yeah, definitely what keeps me excited about the songs is playing live, and obviously not doing too much of that these days. And it's weird to like talk to like you about it, because you're in Texas and like they're playing shows,
Right.
a lot more than they are here, so it's interesting for me to see that, and people are asking me like, when I think I'll be on the road again. And, I've had some venues in Texas reach out to me, but, for me being in LA and, to go to all these venues and basically make 50% of the money that I would make normally, it's like doesn't make sense to me, or it doesn't make sense for me,
Yeah. Well, and also
makes it a little tougher.
I know like a lot of places, even though that they are open here, it's not like, they're open. A lot of places they're not open like their regular hours or their regular days. Like just for example, Blue Light, it's always been open Monday through Saturday. And so, having those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday nights, I guess they're open Thursdays right now, but like right now they're only doing like Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And so and then also like if you're going on tour, and I say like if you came to Texas to do something like that, you would have to. How long would you have to stay in Texas to make it worthwhile? So like that's such a weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, strange, I'd have to kind of look at because isn't it like 50% capacity or something like that?
Yeah, they've been messing with. I don't know. I think it may be up to 75 now, but yeah, it's not at the same levels as everyone's accustomed to. So it is this just this weirdness of it all. So.
Yeah.
This episode is in part brought to you by Austin, Texas's Wild Gallery, a virtual art gallery featuring traditional and contemporary art by Native American artists. As you're probably aware, I'm not just an avid fan of music and film and novels, I absolutely love visual art as well. And as you probably also know if you've been listening to New Slang for a while, you'll know just how often songwriters, they also dabble in various other mediums and are largely also inspired by other artists. One of the giant reasons I was drawn to Wild Gallery is that all of the art is produced by Native American artists, not only produced by, but inspired and influenced by other Native American artists, history, tradition, nature, stories, music, and just culture in general. If you head over to wild.gallery, that's WYLD.gallery, you'll see exactly what I mean. I've spent probably an hour scrolling and clicking through the various pieces. There's just some incredible pieces featured and such a vast array of styles as well. Everything from newer pieces inspired by both like the American West and a bright and bold pop art feel to more traditional fine art oil on canvas paintings. And then obviously there's plenty of pieces inspired by Native American traditions as well. Like I mentioned earlier, they're currently a virtual gallery. What's so great about that for you is that you're able to purchase these pieces from anywhere. And with Christmas coming up, they'd make perfect gifts. Talk about just like one of a kind, unique, and probably more importantly, well thought out gifts that'll excite anyone from your parents, your grandparents, your in-laws, siblings, yourself, really just whoever. And also, I'll be perfectly frank, it's time we have this talk. With everyone working at home these past few months, I've been on so many Zoom calls and I've seen so many Zoom call screenshots on social media. And we really need to talk about some of y'all's home office spaces. Too often, it's just that generic desk, maybe a poster that you had from college, maybe a calendar or like a whiteboard that you write on, and just those bare, bland walls. I'm just saying, we've all been there, but like right now would be the absolute perfect time to fill those walls with some great art. Go visit Wild Gallery and order a handful of these paintings that'll just really spruce up your background and make you look a little bit more adult and lively. When you're surrounded by art, you're more productive, you're more creative, and let's just face it, you're more happy. For me, that's why I fill up my walls with different art, because obviously you walk by them multiple times a day and you're able to like just take those little moments. You're able to appreciate all that effort and energy that was put into the art, and hopefully that kind of inspires you to go on and do more stuff in your day. Again, that's Wild with a Y. I'll throw a link into the show notes, as well as share some of my favorite pieces on Instagram and Twitter. I already have a few earmarked because I'll be ordering them soon myself. Again, that's Austin, Texas's Wild Gallery, featuring a blend of traditional and contemporary art by some of the most gifted Native American artists. Okay, let's get back to the episode.
Yeah, I know they're starting to I think they just opened up Third and Lindsley in Nashville, and you know they're doing like some drive-in stuff out here. Like I went and saw Los Lobos the other night, like a drive-in show, and it was cool. I think they're starting to figure out some stuff out here, but out here, I don't even think that restaurants are allowed to serve people inside. Like every restaurant has you have to be outside eating. So yeah, it's obviously it's a little stricter out here, and so I think it'll just be a little slower to get back to that. But I also saw I think Leon Bridges is playing the Troubadour pretty soon. I thought I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, now that you mentioned
I don't know, man.
I think I saw that too, yeah. No, I think I saw that same post that you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned Los Lobos just a second ago. I was reading some of the things you were saying about this was you were kind of wanting some of that East LA vibe on this record, as well as, like the typical sounds that we've been accustomed to hearing from you. Obviously, you do live out in LA right now. What is that kind of like, I guess, I don't want to say necessarily a new development, but something like a band like Los Lobos that have you grown an appreciation for them since you've been out there, I guess, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm not really sure that it's because I live out here that I was just sort of like more introduced to them like in the last 6 or 7 years. Like I had kind of known about them, like La Bamba and a few of their other songs. But like really starting to like dive into their records, like Colossal Head and Kiko, and some of the like records that like Chad Blake did with like most of the time they had Jack Shit, which is actually not Jack Shit, but Jack Shit is like Elvis Costello's band basically, and Pete Thomas is the drummer, and so Pete Thomas, it's like one of my favorite drummers. He drummed on like 3 records of theirs. Anyways, I'm going on a weird tangent, but yeah, I think one of the things that I wanted to do with this record is kind of showcase a little bit of like what kind of music there has been or is in LA. I think like LA is a lot of the times just associated with like pop nowadays. But there's like a lot more to it. Like there's like the sort of Topanga Canyon sound, which is like Neil Young and Little Feat and Bonnie Raitt, Ry Cooder. And then like East LA is, Los Lobos. And then there's like Laurel Canyon, which that happens. There's like 2 documentaries out now on Laurel Canyon, but there's like a really rich music history here that I don't know. I feel like doesn't get talked about enough. Maybe it's because like when you think LA, you just think Hollywood, you think movies, you think TV. But there's a lot of like cool music that was birthed here. Frank Zappa. And I don't know. Like something just kind of came over me that I wanted to sort of make a bit of an LA record. Yeah, I think we kind of added a little bit of those ingredients kind of everywhere on the record.
Yeah, it's this LA thing it's really interesting. I've thought about that a little bit in the past about how the I guess like it's attached to the Hollywood thing that you're talking about, but also like there just being so many people from other states and other cities who flock to LA, right? Obviously, I bet a part of it probably has to do with like San Francisco having a little bit more, I guess, like part of the just the 60s culture, the 70s culture of like Grateful Dead and any of the hippie kind of movement stuff being from up there. But if you think back, like LA is there is so much diversity when it comes to the music. Everything from Beach Boys to Tupac, or you know what I mean. It's
right.
There's so much.
Yeah, Beach Boy. That's another one, man. Yeah.
So it is like, I guess like at some point though, I think we lost the all those like, I guess those touchstones for LA, and then for most people you just kind of think of just like your generic rock and roll, but like just thinking about it right now,
there's also like, the whole like hairband movement.
That's what I was actually going to say.
That's easy to hate, or easy to love, whatever, or easy to make fun of. I'll say that,
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting to I guess unfold that is like to go past that just generic top layer of culture of what you think LA is, because there is everything from, as all those bands you mentioned, the Byrds. There's obviously, if you kind of go further east and go into, it's easy to like also tap into all the Joshua Tree stuff that's, in my opinion, at least associated with LA. So
it's like Graham Parsons, and then if you even go like all the way out to Bakersfield, but everyone, the Bakersfield is kind of its own thing. Like everyone sort of associates. I mean, that's its own sound almost, you know, the Bakersfield sound. They just kind of call it that with Dwight and Merle and, you know, all those guys. But yeah, I mean, LA is like easy to hate, man. For sure. There's a lot wrong with it. There's a lot that, it's just easy to hate, you know, so people will just sort of label it one thing that they know about it that they don't like and then just write it off. But
yeah,
dude, I have like a healthy hatred for LA too, and I've lived here for 10 years. But there's like 10 million people that live in LA County or something like that. Like, you can find your groove, like you can find your group of people, you can find your clique, whatever. Cause it's there, you know, it's definitely there. It doesn't really matter what you are or you know, what you like. You can find it in LA, you know, it might not be the biggest scene but you know, but if you look for it, it's there. So it's just very diverse, and like, if you really dig into the culture here, it's deep, you know?
yeah.
And that's what people just sort of get lazy about. And you know, like I said, it's easy to hate, you know?
Right. Well, I think what it is it's the same way that, any place that you kind of go to where people are getting quote unquote record deals or like putting in the movies or anything like that. And that's Nashville, New York, LA,
Right.
Austin, you know, like any of those kind of places, people will easily dismiss them for their, as far as like the cultural significance as being everyone who moves there versus like any homegrown talent. And that kind of like, that's obviously there. There's people who are from LA who have like contributed. Metallica, that's another band. You know what I mean? Red Hot Chili Peppers, right? Yeah. Like, there's homegrown talent that is like, I guess, I hate to say like knows a place more so, but like they've just been there longer, so they're it's just like more ingrained into their I don't know, their music maybe, or whatever the case is.
Yeah, well, I think that like, I don't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I was just kind of rambling. I don't know.
I think that like what LA does well is like they foster art really well. You know, if you're an artist, it's a good place to live. I'm from Houston, and there's so many good artists that are from the Houston area, like you know, Steve Earle or even Towns, but he was like more, I think, South Houston. There's all these different artists that are from the Houston area, but they don't stay there, you know, because Houston does not do a good job of like fostering the art. It's just not important to them, you know. There's not very many good venues there. There has, you know, and the ones that kind of turn into cool spots, they don't last, you know.
Yeah.
And I think LA does a really good job of fostering that and making it important. Yeah, that's just one of the things. And I think that Houston is going in like a better direction recently. Like, I've noticed that the food scene is like amazing in Houston now, which is an art, of course. And, you know, they're starting to like, build cool venues down there. There's like White Oak, Bucky Duck is another cool venue, you know, so I hope it's sort of moving in that direction, because I'd like to move back to Texas at some point, you know. I don't know, Houston, Austin, whatever, Hill Country, but yeah, I hope Houston like continues on that trajectory, you know?
Yeah. I think like that's a great way to even kind of, it's not like the end all as far as like judging a city or a place, but it's at least a sign as far as like do they have like an iconic venue? You know what I mean? That kind of thing.
Right.
And then as you mentioned, like the food scene, is there like a lot of, you know, local, you know, just good restaurants and like chefs, and there's probably more chefs
Right.
in Houston there than there is in Lubbock, but
Yeah.
you know, but
Yeah,
anyways,
I would say so.
yeah, going back to the record though, like one of the things that I kind of, it feels like you were doing this beforehand too, but is this like, I kind of get like the sense of some of these songs. I feel like Brad Pitt's character on True Detective, or not True Detective, but True Romance, like Floyd, kind of like just the slacker, smoking pot, kind of like
Yeah.
not necessarily being, I don't know, like super bothered by like the normalcy of like just the 9 to 5. You get
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, I feel like there's a little bit of like that kind of vibe on, and that's, I think that was a LA movie too. So I don't know if that's
Yeah.
tapping in. Is that kind of like some of these characters you feel like they're in that kind of groove as well?
Yeah, I think there definitely is some of that on this record. I think a lot of it is, you know, I started writing like more character based stuff on the last record, and that kind of helped me to take myself less seriously when I could sort of like write about characters on how I wish I was, or, you know, write about some, you know, write about like a guy that just went through a heartbreak, that kind of brushed it off his shoulders, while I could never do that,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And almost like writing characters that makes it easier for me to cope with situations. And not only do I think is it like, sort of brushing off the 9 to 5 and like my sort of issues with the 9 to 5. I don't know if 9 to 5 is the right word, but we'll use that. But I kind of like wanted to poke a little bit at the music industry too. You know, just sort of and I think I'm guilty of this too, but just like some of the, is ingenuous. No, that's not a word. Disingenuous. That's the word I was looking for. Disingenuity. Is that a word? That doesn't sound like a word.
It's 2020. We can make up words.
Yeah. I'll call Webster after this and get it in there. But the disingenuity of the music industry, you know, whether it's, you know, the last record I did, I sort of got like labeled like outlaw, this and that. And I'll be honest, like I sort of played into it a little bit. I like started like wearing the hat, you know, started, I'm not really sure what else I did. The hat is a good example though, you know. I'm not saying that you shouldn't wear hats. I still wear hats, but you kind of know what I mean by that, you know?
Yeah, like lean into the.
I'd sort of like, yeah, I sort of leaned into it, and like, you know, as I sort of like just looked in the mirror and was like, well, that's not really me, you know. I don't really like being labeled that, and you know, I'm sort of being disingenuous to myself, you know. I'm starting to like lie to myself again. And I think a lot of what this record was just sort of putting that behind me and not only finding myself again, but finding where I was right at that moment again, you know. Cause my life has been just like full of trends, you know. Whether it's like when I was younger, like the hardcore screamo emo thing, or like I also went through like a church kid phase. Then I was a drug addict. then I was a folk singer, then I was a outlaw country singer, and I think that like I finally sort of am comfortable with where I am right now, and sort of like kind of found me a little bit more. Yeah, I know I just went on a long ass rant about that, but
No,
I don't even think I answered your question. But
no, I think that's really interesting because, yeah, like for starters, like no one's really an outlaw in music, you know.
yeah,
Like it's, and this all kind of relates to one of my big things about like what us as fans and as writers, specifically for me, like what are we projecting on y'all as far as like as an artist? Because yeah, you've written these songs, but that doesn't necessarily make them, you know, Johnny Cash wrote he shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. That
right.
doesn't mean he feels that, like, or he is that. And so, like, I think it's easy to project those kind of what you sing in a song or how you look on stage or like what you say in a interview and take it as you know, the gospel, if you will. And so like that's interesting. You're talking about like I guess like the hats we wear, right? Like the I guess like to borrow another pop cultural thing, there's a lot of cosplay in music. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's interesting because I think a lot of times people, it's easy to lean into that if you're uncomfortable or if you're hesitant or if you have anxiety about like playing in front of people or whatever the case, right? Like it's really, I don't know. It's an interesting aspect of, I guess, of people being songwriters and artists and what we get out of people.
Yeah, and I don't think like I don't take issue with it. You know, I think that a lot of people like sort of the cosplay of it, and I think that, you know, style and music kind of have gone hand in hand for a long time. But for me, it just kind of made me feel uncomfortable. Like where, you know, I was like so worried about, you know, or not worried, but just like concerned with how, you know, I looked on stage or something like that. And given that didn't like last very long for me, but I was able to like kind of catch myself pretty quick. But it's really easy to just like sort of fall victim to that, I think. Yeah, there was another thing you said that I was gonna touch on, but I can't remember now.
I don't know. I said Johnny Cash, projection, songs.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I said, I'm like write like more, I guess, character based stuff now, and you know, there's a song on the record called "Wicked Woman," and you know, I don't think my girlfriend understands that like all of this stuff is character based, and she's like, "Well, am I the wicked woman?" I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you know, I'm like, no, like this has nothing to do with you or me or anything. It's an observation, you know, it's a story. Which I think like, I mean, there's a lot of people that do that, but I think like Little Feat specifically like did a really good job of like just kind of writing about random shit, you know. But it was like it's fresh, you know, and it's not necessarily random to them. Like it's something that like came to their mind, but they would like develop these cool characters. Lowell or Bill Payne or whoever would like to develop these cool characters and, you know, just dive into their lives. And it helps you to like, it helps me at least like take myself less seriously and it's almost like the reality TV thing, man. It's like diving into a different reality than your own.
I wanted to talk to y'all one more time about our new partners at Desert Door and offer up a handful of my favorite ways to drink it. Get you a Mexican Coca-Cola, have a couple of swigs, then pour yourself some Desert Door Oak aged in, toss in a lime wedge or two, or how about this? Pour some Desert Door into a mug, top off the glass with some ginger beer, squeeze in a lime, or for all you ranch water drinkers out there, get you a Topo Chico, take a couple of pulls off, and then pour in some Desert Door. Toss in a couple of lime wedges, and now you have a mighty tasty and refreshing ranch water. Remember, Sotol is as versatile as vodka and has a more refined, smooth, and a more complex palate than tequila. It's rich and balanced, and whatever your go-to drink is, it'll make it that much better. And again, it's inherently West Texas. It tastes like home. For more info on Desert Door, check our show notes. All right, that's it for Thomas Mooney's Cocktail Minute. Let's get back to the show. And this is going to sound maybe like I'm not meaning this in like a mean way or anything like this, but obviously, like, I think the more artists you know or the more artists you meet, obviously there are these like really colorful and vibrant characters. But like sometimes like people are just boring, and so like, you know, it's like and just sometimes listening to like the diary entry records, if you got like eight of them in a row, you're like, okay, I kind of get this now. I don't have to buy the next one. But if it's all character based and it's like you're just putting little, because obviously like there's aspects of your personality in a song. That's always going to be that a part of it. But sometimes the mechanism is a character or a place or a setting or whatever the case, and that's what makes it so interesting. So like I think like that's, but I find
I think that at some point I might like write another diary entry record, but that's just not where I am, you know. Well, I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you going to say?
I was just going to say, like, I think it's really interesting on the, I guess, for me, what I kind of have gone to as a journalist, what I like to think of what I'm trying to do is, and this is like on two sides of the spectrum. It's like trying to, I guess, find context for these songs and trying to break down all the quote unquote rock star aspects of who a person is, right? But then also like, and talk about that in a very like specific kind of way of like you guys are just, at the end of the day, you're normal just like everyone else is. But then also at the other side, talk about like why that's important and how like, that is actually like really fucking cool. And like what all the music industry, as far as like musicians and artists go, it's essential and it is important and it's, a pillar of our society and like all the epic and grand aspects, but also at the same time be like, you guys are at the end of the day, like just us as well.
Right.
And so like, but it's interesting because I think that other people, and this is probably because I just think about this a lot more. That other people don't necessarily probably have enough time or give a shit about this, but it's like, it's easy to like get confused on a lot of these things as far as like projecting on an artist, just because they're singing a song about drinking doesn't mean they want you to buy 18 shots for them at the end of the night or whatever the case.
I mean, there's some artists though that are like I think fucking Coulter Wall is like he is his music, There's some artists that just sort of like nail that, and then there's, I don't even know if nail that is a word, but it like he's just cool, and his music is kind of what he does. Like I see on Instagram, he's like actively like ranching and going to fucking rodeos and shit. Me, like I don't, like I fucking play video games and play guitar and listen to music and, watch sports. So like, I think for me, it's just sort of like finding that place in my mind that's creative, rather than just like, I don't know, writing about I mean, if I were to write about just strictly my experiences of this quarantine, it would be fucking boring. It would be really fucking boring, man.
Yeah.
So I have to use my imagination, and that interests me a lot about people is where their imagination can really take them,
Yeah. Well, two things on that. One, like, and I've said this probably a billion times on here, is like, people confuse or they think they're the same thing, genuine and being authentic, and they're not the same thing. A little bit of authenticity goes a long way, but I think like the key to any kind of artistry is if you're genuine. It's not necessarily how authentic you are. Two, though, you the imagination thing. Like, were you like a daydreamer as a kid? Were you always constantly just kind of daydreaming in class or anything like that?
Oh yeah, I'm always, even still, like I just have trouble concentrating. I'm always kind of in left field, so to speak.
Yeah, I feel like that's how I was too. Like, I don't necessarily play music or anything, but I always feel like a lot of these artists, a lot of people we're talking with, or I talk with, it was easy. It's easy to daydream. It's easy to just kind of like create your own world and kind of get lost and like look out the window and just think about other shit versus the algebra on the whiteboard or whatever. So
right. Yeah, and I don't even know if I really want to go into all of this, but like I think like taking psychedelic drugs too, like I haven't in like 10 years, but I feel like they did a good thing for me. Like I feel like they like opened up a pocket of my mind that maybe I needed, and maybe I needed to expand that a little bit, and also just like not judge my thoughts so much, let them be, like realize that those thoughts aren't facts, and also just like take one thought and just let it sort of keep going, just let it develop into like a reality, I guess. I don't mean to get like super existential and weirdness, but yeah, I think the imagination is, and like getting to hear about someone else's imagination is interesting to me, man. And I'm not even saying I have the most interesting imagination, but like kind of tapping into that is fun to me,
Yeah, no, I think like that's the like everyone, the imagination, like the daydreaming thing, like just drifting off. I think that's a key to a lot of creative forces. But then also like what you were just saying right there, in a practical way, of like when it comes to songwriting, in a very practical way, like it's beneficial, of like not judging yourself too hard whenever you're trying to create. Like you can always go back and edit something, and you know what I mean? There's a lot of times when people are writing, I think especially early on, you're scared to say something, to even just write it down, because like the fear of like, oh, this is going to sound stupid. And like, like I guess like the editing process, bringing that too early in, I guess. You know what I'm saying? Like, editing,
you kind of have to be able to separate it, you know, or at least have like an on-off switch.
Yeah. Well, like there's probably too many people who edit in the moment versus just let it marinate for a while. Just let it go back, So that's, I guess like it
I think that's a cool thing about like just like sort of like freehand writing too. Just writing whatever you're thinking, And I've gotten some cool things. I haven't really done it in a while, but for a while, there's this book called The Artist's Way. Have you heard The Artist's Way?
I have not read it, but like I've heard a couple people mention it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's pretty like I don't know. I've heard a lot of people talk about it, but it's one of the things that, well, the main thing I took from it is she asked that every morning when you wake up, you just sort of freehand write for, I forget what it is, like 20 minutes or something like that. Or it might be a certain amount of pages. I would do it timed to like 15, 20 minutes. And she's like, don't let your hand stop, just like verbal diarrhea, or not verbal because you're not talking, but
Yeah.
just sort of diarrhea of the hand, I guess. And it's good on not only to go back and revisit and maybe get some ideas out, but it also just sort of like cleans your mind out a little bit, and maybe you can write something out and then you look at it later and you're like, wow, that's a stupid thought. Like, why would I think that? Or why that thought process doesn't make sense. That's a really cool thing. I recommend like anyone doing it. Like I've gone through phases of doing it, but it is definitely valuable.
Yeah. I guess like the first time I ever really saw anything like that was, and this is like a strange side story, but we, in high school we were reading Catcher in the Rye, and like, of course there is no, movie or anything like that for it. So, and I guess like in our English class, we would always watch the movie version of whatever book too. But since there was no movie, we watched Finding Forrester. Do you remember that movie? With like Sean Connery.
Yeah.
And like, I guess like Sean Connery's in it is kind of like a recluse writer, and he takes this kid under his wing and they become buddies and write and all that kind of shit. But one of the things he did was, when he was writing, like, I guess like starting out a story, he would just, there's a scene where he puts the paper into the typewriter and just types away and like doesn't like stop. And the kid is like telling him like, he's trying to tell the kid like, just basically write. This is your first draft. Don't worry about all the other stuff. And like, you just have to write. And
Right.
It is very much that just free thought, like free thinking, just loose, go with whatever story it is that you're trying to tell yourself, especially in that, I guess, the context of that. And later you can work out, because no one is going to, like record,
No one's going to read
publish
it,
or whatever. Yeah. Like there's not like that first version, that first draft is not what's going to be on the record or in the book or whatever the case. So yeah, it's I think there's a lot to all of that.
Yeah, no, definitely, man. I mean, I think it's a cool exercise to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's just, I think like there's all those little things that a lot of artists don't want to talk about. And that's like one of them.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, man, I just sat down and 20 minutes later, here was Stairway to Heaven. And,
Yeah, that's not me, man. And I'm also not the kind of like, I've heard like Jason Isbell, who's like, to me, one of the best songwriters ever, definitely of our time. And, I've heard him talk, he's like very disciplined, where like he writes every day, or I don't remember his exact regimen, but he's very disciplined. That's not me either. I kind of have to like keep my ears open, so to speak, and like I could be in the shower and, hear a melody or think of a line or something, and I have to get out and put it in voice memos or jot it in my notes or something like that. And the other thing that freehand exercise is good to do is, get rid of some writer's block, which I deal with all the time too.
Yeah.
Which a lot of time writer's block is just not being able to have that on off switch of like, left brain and right brain, and that exercise definitely can help with that, also, something that I started doing just like a few years ago is like writing with people, which I never really had a desire to do because writing was like super vulnerable for me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for me, at least, it didn't need to be, and part of like taking myself and my writing less seriously, was like writing with other people. And that's not to say I can write with everybody, but, writing with people that you feel comfortable enough to tell them when something sucks and vice versa. I think that's a really important dynamic. And to not like get your feelings hurt.
Right.
But you're just trying to serve the song, I don't really know where I was going with that, but
No, I think like the co-writing thing is always interested me because, there's all these various ways of doing it. And I think, it's, there's the idea of it, like how it's done in Nashville. And like, there's this perception and idea that it's, everyone's in lab coats or something. And, and like, you're just plugging in words into a formula. And I'm sure there is probably a camp out there who does that, but like going to what you're talking about, like being
sure.
vulnerable in songwriting and just allowing someone else to come into that world. And it goes back to that whole thing of like, it's very easy to talk yourself out of like saying something in the fear of sounding stupid in front of someone, and
Right.
finding those people that you can connect with and not where that doesn't even come into play is like, that's the key to it all. Right.
Right.
So yeah, obviously like you've written with Jamie Wyatt on this record, but then also didn't you guys have a co-write on the last one too? Right.
Yeah, a little bit. She definitely sang on that song.
Yeah. Well,
on what was it, the last record, Skinny Elvis.
Mm-hmm. Well, like,
but yeah, I've written with other people. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, specifically with like Jamie, what is it like that you, that I guess like what makes it work for y'all, as far as like just being able to be comfortable.
I think that we have some we share a lot in common. We both kind of struggle with addiction and just kind of struggle with similar problems, just having that, like Rosarita, for instance, which is the song we wrote together on this record. We definitely share the experience of having something that we know is bad for us. But we just can't stop going back to it,
Mm-hmm.
And we turned that experience into a character who's Rosarita. I think that's where we connect. Other people like, I do a lot of co-writing with Eric Korn, who co-produced the record too. And we have more of a relationship where we can just tell each other when something sucks,
Yeah.
And that's just because we've worked together for a lot for years now. I wrote another one on this record with Ted Russell Camp, who, has a bunch of his own record. He plays bass with Shooter. And yeah, I don't know. We just sort of clicked. When the first time we wrote a couple songs on the last record too. He's just easy to write with, man. And I write very different songs with him than when I write with Eric or Jamie, It's almost like when you're writing with different people, it also helps to bring a different perspective, not only to maybe the character, but just to the song in general,
Yeah. Well, obviously, like there's going to be a piece of them and a piece of you on it. And so like,
Right.
what I find really interesting too is and I've seen it like here in, I can probably think of a couple examples, but the one, excuse me, the one that kind of comes to mind is one of my buddies, William Clark Green. When he's done a couple of co-writes, obviously with various people, and one of his things was like, oh, this idea was kind of something I thought like would work best with this person, and then this idea, like I had this idea and I had been kind of working on it, and then I needed to finish it up, and I was writing with blah blah, and I thought, oh yeah, this would actually be good for this person, and just kind of like matching like the ideas, because like it's sometimes like that's beneficial. Like if this person has more of a I guess more knowledge on even a character or like an idea, like that's obviously beneficial. So
Right. Yeah. And I mean, not only that, but like also style of music too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe this character, this idea is, maybe better for this person, or maybe, the melody is better for this person. Who knows? Yeah, I definitely relate to that, man. And he's a really good dude. I met him in Kansas City or something. We played a show with him. I really like that dude.
Yeah, man, he's a Lubbock guy, so yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's you guys should write together. Oh.
Yeah, that'd be cool, man. Yeah, I've been like trying to do some like Zoom writing sessions, which suck, but it's what we got. But like we're writing a little bit with like Alex Williams,
yeah.
He's like an Indianapolis guy, / Nashville. One of those true. I think he's one of those true great guys. But I don't know. Me and him have just kind of become friends like online. So we've been trying to do some Zoom stuff, and the Zoom thing just sucks, man. It's just really tough. Like, but again, it's what we got, and it's kind of where we are right now.
Yeah, it was. I think what's the thing with Zoom. Obviously, this relates directly back to what we started on, but like, the thing with Zoom too is when it comes to songwriting, there's so many ways for it to mess up, as far as like the delay, if there's a slight delay, if it cuts out for a second, like,
right,
and you just don't hear exactly what the person
I think
said,
the main thing is like you can't play together.
Right. Yeah.
It's a bummer, but it is what it is, man. You gotta kind of adapt.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, man. It's been really great talking with you, and I really enjoy this new record here. So,
thanks, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I wish we were maybe sitting at Blue Light like the last time.
Yeah. That was... All right, that's it for this one. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out Sam Morrow's Gettin By on Getting Down, out this Friday, October 30th. Go check out our presenting partners over at Desert Door, the Blue Light Live, and Wild Gallery of Austin, Texas. And yeah, I'll see y'all next week for more episodes of New Slang.